Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and today we are going to talk about the Sakhir Grand Prix, which happened about 5 or 6 hours ago. I didn't get around to making the video straight away because unfortunately life gets in the way, and this, because it started in the evening, I then had to make dinner and get the kids to bed, so I didn't get a chance to make the video straight away. So I'm doing it now, and it's pretty much Monday, so who knows when this video will be up, but I'm going to do it anyway. A lot to talk about. We've got Russell's debut for Mercedes. We have Fittipaldi and Aitken making their debuts in Formula 1. We have the incident at the start of the race. Loads to go through during the race. This was quite an interesting one. It wasn't necessarily the most exciting race in the world, but this is definitely the Sakhir track they should go with in the future because it was better than any Bahrain Grand Prix I've ever seen. Even with Grosjean's explosion crash and Lance Stroll ending up on his roof. This was a really interesting, good race. So I would hope they keep this layout from now on. Other than that, there's plenty to discuss. We've got WRC and Formula 2 as well. So sit back, relax, and let's begin.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So we'll start with the debutants, and I'll start at the back. So Pietro Fittipaldi, he qualified last, he only drove at the back, and we didn't see much of him, but that might have been a good thing from his perspective, because even though he only finished 17th in what may be his only Formula 1 start, he didn't crash, he didn't make any mistakes, he got to the end. That's all that can really be asked of him. He was brought in on short notice. He did a good enough job for Haas. I mean, I think he finished just behind Magnussen. I know there was a safety car towards the end. So, Pietro Fittipaldi, on the whole, did a good job. Jack Aitken, again, he made that one mistake where he spun, took off his front wing, caused a safety car that really changed the race. He did a good enough job apart from that, and he did finish above Fittipaldi. So, I hope we see both drivers back someday. Maybe next week. It doesn't look like Grosjean's going to be racing, so I'm guessing Fittipaldi will be at Abu Dhabi. As for Jack Aitken, it depends on Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. But both drivers deserve another chance. They both did fairly well. George Russell, he did a outstanding job, but he was screwed over by Mercedes. And you never see Mercedes make mistakes. Not when Lewis Hamilton's driving for them. Not like this, anyway. But both Russell and Bottas just seem to have the worst luck today, and Bottas has a lot of bad luck, but I think it says a lot that Russell on his first drive in this car, and as I said, there's a lot for him to get used to, and it's not really made for him. He's very tall, he didn't really fit in the car, but he did an excellent job. He qualified hundreds of a second behind Bottas, got past him at the first corner and controlled the race from there. Bottas didn't look like he was getting passed. With Verstappen crashing out as well, it looked like Bottas was going to secure second in the championship anyway. But then the pit stops happened, and it's an unusual mistake, especially from Mercedes, but it's almost like panic setting, and they just brought out any old tyres, and it was the wrong ones. So they had to bring Russell in again. Bottas had his tyres taken off and then put back on, but they both had long pit stops that dropped him down the field. So it's a very rare mistake from Mercedes, but it was a bad one because it cost him the win, and it cost George Russell what should have been his first win. He flew past Bottas, got past Stroll and Ocon really quickly after that. It looked like he was going to chase down Perez for the finale. Then he got a puncture, so he came in again, and he was dropped down out of the points. Now, he did manage to work his way back in. He got some points. I'm happy for Russell because he's had 2 seasons at the back with Williams, and he deserves to have some points on the board. So, and from that point of view, it's a success. And he showed that he's a really great racing driver. The bad side of it is that it should have been a win. This never happens with Mercedes. This was so rare, and it always happens to teams like at moments like this when they're panicking and they have to do things quickly and things get mixed up. But not at Mercedes. It never happens like that. So it's disappointing, but hopefully, it depends on Hamilton if Hamilton's well enough to race at Abu Dhabi. He's got a couple of weeks to recover, so he may choose to sit out anyway because he doesn't really need to be there, and George Russell deserves a fair shake of it. The problem for Mercedes is that George Russell has proven now that he is ready to be in a Mercedes. He did a fantastic job, and it was them who screwed him over. But they've already secured Bottas for 2021, and they'll probably secure Hamilton at some point. And it's a real shame that we're going to have George Russell at the back with Williams for another year, when really they should have put him there instead of Bottas. I mean, if Lewis Hamilton retires next year, it's a great transition to have your next up-and-coming driver there to learn from him for at least a season, maybe two. And I don't know if that's going to be the case at Mercedes. But I think George Russell will step up eventually. I think he's a great prospect. He is the rightful heir to Hamilton. So this was a 10 out of 10 performance from his point of view. Just Mercedes 1 out of 10 because they were terrible. Bottas, he was on old tyres. He dropped back. It's just he hasn't got that extra oomph to make it work the best he can, and he deservedly finished 8th or 9th. I think it was 8th or 9th. Was it Russell who finished 8th? I've already forgotten. But yeah, finishing lower down the points, and it's just Bottas. Even though Verstappen crashed out, he now has to go into next weekend ready to beat Verstappen, because Verstappen can still finish second. I think it's unlikely, but with Bottas, anything is possible. So I think that's the biggest disappointment for Mercedes, is that they haven't secured first and second in the Drivers' Championship. I don't think Verstappen has much of a chance, but just there being a chance, he has a chance. Now, the incident at the start, it was entirely Charles Leclerc's fault. It was a mad dive. He hit Perez. Verstappen tried to avoid him, got on the dirty stuff and crashed. A shame for Verstappen. Not much he could have done about it. It just happens that way. Leclerc was out as well. But Perez, he went to the back of the field. It looked like that was his race done. He was just going to be trotting around at the back. It was a sign of how talented he truly is. But even though he was right place at the right time, he still came back from 18th to 1st. He is an incredible driver. I can't believe Racing Point have replaced him, because he's done such a fantastic job for them for so long. Back when they were Force India, I think he had 7 or 8 seasons for them. Probably not that many. But he's been there a long, long time. And they've just got rid of him. But now he's won a race. He's made a point. Someone really should take him. The only seat that's probably available is the Red Bull seat. And Albon didn't have a great race. He finished 6th. I think he's 10th. No, he's 8th in the championship. So Albon hasn't done a great job this year. I wouldn't blame Red Bull for replacing him with Perez. And maybe keep Albon spare. Keep him in your driver program. Because he's good. He's just not great. It was probably a step up too early. But he has got a couple of podiums this year. He has come on a little bit. So there's potential there. So I wouldn't get rid of him completely. But Perez cannot be without a drive for 2021. He's had a fantastic season. He had a second place 2 races ago. Should have had a podium the last race, but it was his car breaking down that did him in. And he's won this race. He's 4th in the championship. He's pretty much clear of Ricciardo. I think Ricciardo has to finish on the podium for a chance to beat Perez. So he's basically secured 4th in the championship. Him and Stroll finishing 1st and 3rd has basically guaranteed Racing Point 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Why have you sacked him? It was a mistake, because Vettel isn't doing anything in a Ferrari. I don't think he's going to be any better than Perez in the Racing Point or Aston Martin, as it will be next year. That was a mistake. I can't see Racing Point announcing Perez alongside Vettel and getting rid of Stroll, because Stroll's dad is banking it. Maybe he'll take his son to one side and say, hey, sit out a year, we'll see how it goes. I can't see it. I think Stroll will be there. And Stroll deserves to be there as well, because he's had a fantastic season. He's had a couple of podiums. He's doing a good job. He had that run of 5 or 6 really bad results. But he still deserves to be there. McLaren, again, great job. They both scored points. I think Norris was a bit further down and Sainz is ahead of him now. Sainz has had a great season, finished 4th. It's a shame to see him in a Ferrari, but if he can match Leclerc's performances, he's done a good job. Ricciardo, Ocon got the podium. Really happy for him. Again, great driver, deserves it. Ricciardo was a bit further behind. I think he's fallen too far behind Perez for 4th, but he can still finish 5th, which is a good result for him. It was the not Racing Points, what are they called? AlphaTauris. Kvyat had a great race. Gasly, I think, fell out the points at the end. Kvyat's probably going to go as well. Yuki Tsunoda got a 1st and 2nd place in Formula 2. He finished third. I imagine AlphaTauri will announce him as a driver very, very soon. He's really a good driver, so I'm excited to see that. It's a shame to lose Daniel Kvyat because he's been up and down throughout his career. But the last couple of seasons, he has been okay for AlphaTauri. It's probably his time, though. I think Kevin Magnussen's been announced for WeatherTech in America. I can see Daniel Kvyat doing either that or European Le Mans World Endurance Championship. I think he's a good enough driver to do it, so I don't think he'll be out of work. But it's a shame to lose him, but we are replacing him with another Russian. We'll have Nikita Mazepin next year. Mick Schumacher won the Formula 2 Championship, so he's going to step up next year, ready to go. Again, he looks like a great driver. I think he'll step up to Ferrari very quickly, which is probably really worrying for Sainz, but we'll have to see how that goes in the future. It depends a lot on how Haas perform next year. It's going to be interesting. It's a shame that it sounds like Grosjean's not going to be back in time for Abu Dhabi. It means he's had his last race. It would have been nice to give him a proper send-off because I don't know why he's one of my favourite drivers. He just is. I don't know if it was a point where it's like, yes, I like this guy. He just has been for years, and I can't really explain it because he's never been a driver who gets loads of really good results. He had 2 good seasons, maybe 2 or 3 good seasons for Lotus. Got a few podiums here and there. He's had his time. He's helped Haas develop over the years. He's been there since the start, so it's a shame he's going to miss the last 2 races of the championship, his final one. But I think everyone should join me in saying thank you, Romain Grosjean. You've provided us with endless entertainment over the years, from that 3rd place at Spa in a Lotus to spinning in the pit lane last year for Haas. You're an astounding driver, and you're a really funny guy. I've always watched your interviews and stuff. I'll miss Romain Grosjean loads. I don't think there's too much more to discuss in that. Latifi didn't finish the race. I think engine failure or something. But he wasn't really doing anything anyway. I think he's a good driver, but Williams just haven't got the platform to give him something to show himself on. Same with George Russell, really. He, unfortunately, is now last in the championship of the drivers that have been there full time because George Russell now has points, which is probably annoying for him. But what are you going to do? I don't know what else. I don't think there's anything else really to discuss with Formula 1. This was a great race. There's some really good overtaking in the midfield, some good battles. The really short lap is interesting. I really want them to keep this layout of Sakhir because I don't really like the main Sakhir layout. Last week's race wasn't that interesting apart from the start and the finish. The middle of it was kind of boring. This was entertaining throughout just because the lap's so short and is something completely different for Formula 1, which helps the calendar because you're going to have like 22, 23 tracks. Having one that's a bit different really, really does make it stand out. So I think they should keep this layout of Sakhir. I don't think they will. I think they will keep the main Sakhir track, which is a shame. Other than that, Formula 2, as I said, Mick Schumacher was champion. Him and Callum Ilott didn't score any points in the last race, but I think he was quite far ahead anyway. So Yuki Tsunoda, I think, was 1 point behind Callum Ilott. So ended up being really close. If it was another race, Callum Ilott would have to watch himself. Sorry. Really good weekend for Carlin that because Yuki Tsunoda won the first race and Jehan Daruvala won the second race. I like Daruvala. He's had a bad season, but I thought he was really good in Formula 3 and he got screwed over by a lot of... I think he had a really bad second half of the season. I think he finished 3rd at the Premiers, but he didn't really deserve to finish 3rd at the Premiers. I'm happy he's got a win. Hopefully he'll be back next year. What else? Super Formula. Both races this weekend were really interesting. You should go watch them. The race on YouTube has them on there for free. So, they're only an hour long. Watch them. They're really good. WRC, I saw OGA won the championship. I don't know what happened to Evans. I think he retired. That's a shame because this is probably Evans' only chance to win the World Championship. OGA, how many is that now? 8 or 9? I've lost track. And he's announced he's racing next year as well. He was going to retire. Good for him. I'll watch it because I watched a little bit. I watched the first 2 days of the Rally Monza. I watched the highlights of the first 2 days, and they were using part of the banking, and they were using the forest and the start line and part of the Formula 1 track. It looked really interesting. It's probably never going to come back to the WRC calendar ever again, but it was a great rally. It looked like a great rally, and I'm going to watch it tomorrow. I think that's it. We haven't got much more to go. We've got one Formula 1 race, one Super Formula race, and then that's pretty much the 2020 season over. I don't think there's too many other racing series going on. I think there's some GT racing next week. But I'll be back with another review, and then we'll get into the 2021 stuff after that, which is really exciting. I've got another couple of interesting videos coming out. I'm doing this ranking every Ferrari driver ever in Formula 1. The second part will come out next week, as well as the reaction to my WRC 2020 predictions. And there'll be a couple other videos as well. I have another video game review lined up at some point before Christmas. I'm not really sure when. So you really need to subscribe because I've got some really good stuff coming out before Christmas. I would like to get to 125 before Christmas subscribers. So hit that button now. Remember to subscribe, like the video, share it. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.